Hi everybody. So just while we're waiting for everybody to join in, as per usual, it's been a little while. Quite a few things to get through, not just from a Madagascar point of view, just kind of a little bit of an update as well as to what's been going on. Where to start? Sure. The webinars has been quiet for a couple of weeks because we're looking at restructuring. With COVID going on, there's quite a bit of exciting stuff we've been working on. So you'll start seeing that in the not too distant future. If you follow us online, which I hope you do, some of the guys are in Sabi right now doing some content and just kind of helping the lodges kind of stay out there, if you know what I mean, just kind of be out there. And hey, Marie. And yes, I've been taking a break from social and I haven't been on Instagram at all. I posted 2 new TikToks today, but that's a different story. And it has been phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. We are looking at... There's exciting stuff. I can't share all of it now, but we're looking at a full rebrand. There's some very cool stuff, brand new website, lots of stuff coming up. Website as far as Wild Eye and my own one. I'm hoping to get my own website live by Monday. Adam Huzzaman. And the Wild Eye website, which is a total new redesign, should be live by October. So yeah, we haven't been sitting during this COVID time, not doing much. It's been busy. And funny thing is, you actually work harder from home. It's bizarre. Like tomorrow, I'm working from home the whole day. You actually work harder. Brendan, I'm seeing your name. Dude, I know I owe you an email. It's been all over the place. Yeah, exactly. It's been a while. Okay, so as always, I'm going to leave the Q&As open that you can pop in. Phil, hey, how's it, man? That you can pop in there. I'm going to keep the chat open, and then we can go from there. So the idea with this one is just the first one back, just on the webinars. There's another one Mike is hosting at 8 o'clock tonight. He's in Sabi Sands. He's going to be hosting live from there, just talking about the Sabi Sands. And then from next week, moving forward, there will be 3 webinars every single week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Wednesdays is a premium one, 2 hours, where you can sign up for. And there's quite a deep level dive. And the other ones are kind of these 45-minute ones. We just kind of share and talk a little bit. So watch the blog. I can share that link with you guys if you haven't seen it yet. But from next week, 3 webinars every single week, all the way through end of September has been scheduled already. So that's quite exciting. Anyway, let's get into Madagascar. Quick one, in the chat function for me, how many of you have actually been to Madagascar? Let's have a quick check here. In the chat function, who has been to Madagascar? Hannah has been, yes. Okay, no, not yet. I like the not yet part. Went on honeymoon. It's on the bucket list, and it should be. It should definitely be. Okay, so what we're going to do is, just before we get into some images and photography and stuff, just want to talk a little bit about kind of where it is and how it can fit into an African itinerary, if you will. So I am going to start you guys off by sharing this screen from Google Earth. Right. Just please confirm for me in the chat function that you can see my globe here. You can see the Earth. Yes? Not yet is the good answer. Yes, you got it. All right, Melissa, thank you so much. Okay, so Madagascar, it's the 4th largest island in the world. And because of the density of animals, a lot of people actually call it the 8th continent. I didn't know this until I did a bit of research on it eventually. But where it is you've got Africa over here, South Africa, of course, down at the bottom, right? And then you've got East Africa over there. So those are the kind of safari hubs, if you will. Now, quick one, I'm sure every single one of you have been on African safari, yes? Just in the chat function, just to confirm for me, because we're going to talk about the differences, specifically photographically, and how it's different. Yes, 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 yes. All right, that's brilliant. Okay, not yet. Brendan, we have to talk. And yes, I'm back in the game from Monday, hopefully on social as well, so we'll talk. So Madagascar is very easily accessible, both from East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and also from South Africa. So when I went there last, it was a direct flight out of Nairobi. So the itinerary that we put together was the Masai Mara into, which was this one? It was Masai Mara into Antananarivo, into Madagascar, then into South Luangwa, and then South Africa. Was a killer itinerary, right? But the differences is remarkable with regards to everything, infrastructure, service levels, the levels of poverty. We'll talk about that. It's quite heavy, but photographically, that we'll get to. So a quick one, into Madagascar we go. So there's the island. It's off the east coast of Africa, right? And you've got the capital, Antananarivo. Try and spell that. Right in the dead center. And from a photographic point of view, there's basically 4 hotspots, right? So the first trip that we did there, you just zoom in a little bit more here, is I did Andissa Bay and Mantadia, which is this area here. And on the coast, you've got Palmerium. Those 2, specifically for lemurs and the rainforests, is phenomenal, right? The Baobab Valley, the Baobab Road, you all would have seen those images, happens down in the south here. That's also, if you're looking for things like fossa and the ring-tailed lemurs, that's probably where you want to go. And then Tingi, those granite forests, the stone forests, are up on the west coast. So all of our future trips, we're combining all of those. There's 4 stops, right? What I'm going to focus on now is this top part. Maybe in a future webinar, we'll dig deeper than that. But where we're going to be playing is this area right in the middle over here. And I'll bring you back to this each single time because this is kind of the main area. And I can see all these rainforests and stuff over here. Let's start with roads. Right. I'm going to stop sharing here. For those of you that have been to Africa, right, you'll know that the roads aren't always the best. If you've ever driven from the Masai Mara to Nairobi or back, you fear for your life. That's how bad it is. There's potholes that can swallow Land Cruisers, and these guys just bullet down these roads. Madagascar gives a new meaning to bad roads. The distances we traveled, I mean, the one day was about 180 kilometers, I think, and it took us all of like 7 hours. It's literally up and down on a dirt road, sometimes tar that does that. So if you're going to go here, allow yourself time, be patient. It's worth it in the end, but it really is. The traffic and the driving and stuff is around is it's quite real. Now, if you look at the safari industry in Africa, and I'm talking both South Africa as a kind of premium and also then East Africa. I did a podcast when I was in New York a couple of years ago. I'd just come back from Canada where I hosted a Great Bear Rainforest trip. And then I went to Tweedsmuir, which is like this grizzly haven, right? And when I went to Canada, when I started looking at these lodges, they carried on about it's the 7th best lodge in Canada and it's amazing and all these things. And I'm expecting kind of Sabi Sands, Sangita, Londolozi, because in Africa, we know our shit when it comes to lodges and service and the hospitality industry around nature travel. We really are world-class, right? So I was a little bit not disappointed by what I found in Canada at these lodges. I mean, it's nice, but it wasn't amazing. So that's our industry in South Africa. We do it well. So if you are or you've been to African lodges, do not expect that when you go to Madagascar. It is back to basics. Even the hotels that we stayed in Ntana, the main capital, it's nice, but it's not through the roof amazing. The problem here is twofold. The poverty is incredible. So people don't always want to go there. So you don't have the income. And then for them to build the lodges, they would need to have people coming. It's a vicious little circle. But I cannot urge you highly enough. Photographically, it is golden. And we'll get to that now. Arriving in Madagascar, for Adam and those of you that have been, right, I have never, and we were warned about this the very first time, I have never experienced a passport control where there's literally 6 people behind the desk checking your passport. It's job employment, and it's also the African handshake that can happen quite often here. But you arrive, you give your passport to the first person. He or she hands it to the next person who puts it into the computer. He or she takes it out, passes it to the next person who stamps it, passes it to the next person, and then the 5th person gives it back to you. It's bizarre. It's truly bizarre. And then also, when you get, I mean, for those of you that have been to the Masai Mara, or to Kenya at least, when you come out of Nairobi National Airport, right, there's a lot of people around. But in general, they tend to leave you alone. They have boards and they'll talk to you, but they're not going to be in your face. The moment you get past passport control, right, at Tana, there's people everywhere. They've got trolleys. They take it back. You literally have to be kind of thick-skinned and say, guys, no, just do your thing. You just do your thing and I will approach you, because it can be quite overwhelming. The two ladies I had there on a private guided trip, which was that Masai Mara, Madagascar, South Luangwa, Sabi Sands itinerary, phenomenal trip. They were nervous to go there. And that's why I was the buffer between this. So just know this. It's very different to Africa. It's got an African vibe, but it's not the same. You want to, if you go there, if you don't use someone like myself to travel with, you want a local guide there who can speak English, because it's not all that common. At some of the hotels we stayed at, almost no English. So it's on the menu kind of with bad English pointing, I want this. Yeah. Yeah, Adam, it's crazy. The airport is next level ridiculous. So that's kind of just a little Masai Mara camp is fucking great. As a little bit of an intro to it, but I just want to quickly show you the two areas that I'm going to focus on now, and then we're going to go into the photographic side of it, right? So I'm going to take you back to my map over here. Right. So if we come in a little bit here, let me quickly just turn everything on. That's on there. All right. You can go away. So the two main areas where I was operating during this particular trip was on the coast here. So we did the furthest. So we drove this all the way from Tana, all the way into this area here. It's called the Nest of Dreams, the Palmarium area. So it's this big open lagoon system, and they've got these little islands and things off the coast. So you drive, and then we took a boat across because it's faster, right? Now I'll show you it's beach, right? And if I say to you it's a beach resort, which is how they kind of market it, you live on here. So you walk out of your little cabin and you're on this white beach. Basic accommodation. Perfect, nothing wrong with it, but super basic. So I think the most important thing is, if you're going to travel here, is just manage your expectations. Do not expect Sabi Sands quality. It's not that, but it is what they have, and they do what they do pretty well. So the first part of it was in Palmarium. We're on the far side here. And then what you do is, in the days, you can go hiking, and I'll show you some images from there, around the camp area or the lodge, bungalows. So we went to all these areas. So every day we went across to different parts, yeah? But there's areas, for example, where we go for the eye, and I'll show that to you as well. But it's super basic. Lemurs, though, phenomenal. At Palmarium, the main, there's two parts to it. There's the main one, and there's a small one on the island. They have lodges, cabins on both. The lemurs do not have natural predators in this part of Madagascar. Fossas, super rare. It's the only predator. Go and Google them. Fossa. They're more down south. So these things are so chill. If you can imagine vervet monkeys at some lodges in Africa, that's kind of what you can get over here. It's kind of what you can get over here. And you still have to be careful. We're going to talk about, are they dangerous and all of this. One bit me, different story, on the finger though. But they're not dangerous, but they are close. They get on your shoulder sometimes. They're literally as far as you are from your screen. So photographically, the stuff you can do really is amazing. So that was the first part of the trip. We spent a lot of time here. And then we pulled back to Andissa Bay and Manta Deer National Forest, which is further back. Let me just pull back over here, which is further back down in this area over here. Right. So those are the two main areas that we focused on. And if you have a week only, if you only have a week, I would say just do those two. If it's lemurs you want, do those two. If you're more into the landscapes, if you want to do the Baobab Alley, then go down south, Morondova. But you do not want to try and do both in 7 days. The travel, the transport, it's going to eat up a lot of time. So again, before you go to any destination, whether it's Africa, Svalbard, know what you want to photograph, because then you can plan the trip better. Okay, I'm going to quickly show you the two lodges, places that we stayed at. So this is Andissa Bay Hotel. It's literally the only hotel in the area. The rest are little lodges and stuff, and it just goes, all right. So beautiful areas. The rooms are sufficient. This was kind of the fancy one, right? So it's very basic, but it's sufficient. There's nothing wrong. Little pool, which was empty when we were there. But those are your houses. You're sitting on the edge of the rainforest, and it's, I must be honest, quite big rooms. They were pretty large rooms, but pretty basic. The gardens itself, absolutely stunning. Right, so that's a bit of a 360 thing. But so each of these is a room, pretty big, but basic. And then you walk all the way down and you get down to the lodge main area. The food and stuff, very, very basic, very good, kind of local flavors and stuff as well. Lots of vanilla in there. And drink-wise, do not expect a great variety of drinks. Not that. So in the evenings and in the day, you can walk around here. Chameleons, phenomenal. I'll show you some of those. And we're lucky with 1 or 2 lemurs here, but not as many as you go when you go into the forest and such. Then Palmarium, this is the website. I actually struggled to find some decent stuff of their rooms, but it's these small. This is not one of the cabins. This is like a main area. It's literally a wooden cabin on the beach. Room that you walk into, bed, through kind of toilet area. Super basic, but the setting is absolutely, absolutely amazing. Now, the cool thing, and obviously why we want to be going to Madagascar, is for the photography. And I must be honest, I was absolutely blown away all the times that I've been. And the thing that you get there, so for those of you that've been to Africa, you're on a game viewer. And often you have to kind of be quite, okay, the cheetah's going, go, now you're going to change there. Go, what is the focal length? The thing that I enjoyed about Madagascar as a photographic destination is that it's very controlled. You see the lemur, it sees you, you're done. Now you can work the scene. Some of them are so chill, and I'll show you some images that they literally sit here. So from a teaching point of view, I could say to Mary and them, listen, stand here, try the depth of field, now move here. So the teaching and the photography is you can make images, not just take them. Because let's be honest, on some safari destinations, you just grab shots because things are happening so quick. You shoot and hope for the best. In Madagascar, you can literally make your images, and we'll have a look at some of that. So let me just quickly see, there's some things here. Okay, that's all good. What we're going to do is I'm going to take it into my Lightroom catalog. This is all the images that I kind of just processed and sorted out when we finished. And it's kind of a chronological thing all the way through. So before we go, activities. Most of it is on foot. All of it is on foot. You use boats and you use vehicles to kind of get you to the places, but there's walking. Now, some of the areas like Lima Island, and I'll show you some of that, it's a very small area. It's got a moat around, like a river around it. So lemurs can't swim. So they stay there. So you go there, you walk around. Sometimes you can get on a boat and you can go up and down the little river. But most of it's on foot. If you go through Mantadia, the big rainforest, you're on foot. Now, last thing here is some people have mentioned that the lemurs and those are a little bit too habituated. We cannot change that. These things are calm as it is. Some of the smaller species, right? There's about 105 different types of lemurs. More than 30% are critically endangered, but you're looking at about 105. And these things don't have natural predators. So for them to come to us, they've seen people around these lodges. So if you go and you photograph lemurs around the camps, cabins, and lodges, super chill. And you'll see the images you can create. When you then go to Mantadia and you go walking in these big rainforests, then it's different. Then it's like trying to photograph gibbons in Borneo. Probably one of the most difficult things I've had to do in my life. They're up in the trees, they're all over the show, and you're just shooting everywhere. So the combination of great photography with the kind of, I don't want to say tame because it's still a wild animal, right? On that side where they're nice and close versus the experience of being in a rainforest and hearing Indri's calling. So this has a bit of everything. And then the chameleons, the other activities that you do is for the chameleons. Now, the smallest one's literally as big as my pinky nail. And we saw the other one, which is about as big as my forearm. And then you got the tail. Phenomenal creatures. And not just because of wild eye, but they really are awesome to photograph. So if you have a macro lens, you want to be taking that with. I didn't personally, for all of the stuff I shot here, I was on Olympus. And with mirrorless 4/3, your focusing distance is close. So it acts as a kind of a macro. But you do that in the day, and in the evenings you go walk around as well. And the guide has a torch. I've done this we did this in Borneo, we did this in Madagascar. So the walk in the evenings through the forest, you pick up everything. And the cool thing here for me was, we would, for example, have a chameleon, small little guy sitting on a stick like this. I would then say to my guest, right, you guys sit this side, photograph here. The guide takes the torch from here, and while they're shooting, we slowly take it over all the way, which means you're creating images from backlighting to side lighting to top to front lighting. So you've got all of the different types of lights, and you can control this. Love that. So what we're going to do, we're going to Lightroom. I'll keep the chat function open if you have any questions as we go. And we're just going to kind of look through what you can see photographically in Madagascar, those two areas, and Bay and Palmerium. If any of you want to have a look at this in more detail, send me an email. You should have my email address, and then I will send you the link to the gallery and you can go have a look, yeah? So into Lightroom we go. So like I said, this here, sorry, can you guys confirm for me that you can see my Lightroom? Just sometimes it does give us a little bit of hassles, but it should be cool. Thanks, Anne, that's awesome. Okay, so what we're looking at here is literally in order and chronologically as we arrived. So the close-up nature, and we'll flick through some of these. I'll stop on some of these things. The cool thing with these lemurs, right, is like any lemurs are primate, yeah? So like your big apes, the chimps, the gorillas, the baboons, vervets, if you understand portrait photography, you get it home so much more done because they're nervous, they're excited, they look sideways. So those kind of things make a huge difference when it comes to photographing them. They are absolutely phenomenal things. But now look at this from a photographic point of view. Exposure, deep blacks, and sometimes very bright whites. If you get these things in the sun, super difficult. So just keep in mind exposure compensation, but they are phenomenal. So this guy, what was the shot with? Let's quickly see here. Focal length wise, what do we have? Okay, this was an 80 to 400. This was a Nikon 80 to 400. So the background here, I must have been about 5-6 meters from this thing. So the details up close that you can get, okay, we're jumping here, but of these is absolutely phenomenal, right? We arrived on Palmerium. This was our first day on foot. We went over the morning and we found this guy as we got onto the beach. And then as we walked, the guide said, oh, look, little chameleon. Now, for the life of me, I'm not going to remember all the names of the chameleons, right? But they are absolutely amazing little things to photograph as you go. And the details that you can pick up is just phenomenal, right? Absolutely phenomenal. We had quite a bit of fun. This is literally as we got onto the beach. So we had this lemur and this chameleon in the same sighting, so to speak. So we carried on. And the one thing that I tried specifically here is to tell the people to make sure that you don't just go for the big close-up, because the forest has so much to offer as well. So the idea of focusing subject in environment, big deal. I love this. Just the face on these things, just too awesome. So to give you an idea just of proximity here. So this would be to my clients here, Miriam, and they are super curious. These big guys didn't jump on us. Thank God for that, the injuries, right? But they are super curious. So they'll jump over onto the tree. They'll kind of check you out for a while. Sometimes they call from there, which is what happened when the mouth was open. But here, we were shooting 24-70s at this stage. So super nice and close and just great photographic potential. We walked up the little stairs to where the lodge was, and then it got real. So we started getting black and whites and the bouquet. Look at the background here. So what we could do is we would photograph this guy. He was looking down at our guide who was sitting down. So he was checking him out. You could literally move around almost, apart from the bushes, 180 degrees around this thing. So you could work the background. So that and that is the same animal. Yeah? So you can think photographically here, where sometimes on safari, you just react. Here you can be proactive. And that's a big deal for photographing wildlife. Again, from the bottom, we were laying down on the floor. These things were super chill. We go down here a little bit. So this here is what we were looking at. So this pathway goes to the lodge or the camp, right? All the way back there. So these things hang around on the extremities of it. I did see 1 or 2 people feeding them, but in general, negative. I mean, even if it happens, I don't like our guides to do that. We want to try and keep it as natural as possible. But when you get something like this again, and they are so relaxed, we started playing with different things where there were four, on the thing. You go lay down underneath. And he's this guy got, because he actually tried to touch my lens hood. So he's just hanging down. But the images you get, very different perspective. You cannot get this with a lion or an elephant, if you know what I mean. So the idea as well, just photographically, things to try. So because they are so relaxed and so chill, they fell asleep in these positions. We could play with things like sun flares and sunbursts and such, which made for great, great photography. In between photographing these guys, because you walk with your little backpack, and you can do macro right there. So we did quite a bit of this macro kind of stuff, right, in between, which again, from a diversity and experience point of view, is just amazing. It really is cool. So we, I think on our trip, if I remember correctly, we saw about 16 different lemur species, right? The crowned, I think this is the great crowned one. But I mean, again, look at the close-up, the details you can get, and the bouquet on the background. Because remember, photographically, it's not just your aperture. It's also the length you use, and then distance from you to subject and subject to background. And in Madagascar, you can control all four of those, which is quite amazing. Going on here, this little guy made me think of that squirrel from Ice Age. He had that kind of nervous energy. But again, here's a guy in the background. You can see photographing. I think it was a chameleon down there. You can make images. It is great to be able to do this. See, there's my squirrel from Ice Age. Super nervous little thing. Details, because they are so chill and you've got a big lens, you can create things like this. For those of you that have traveled with me, I've spoken about deconstructing your subject, and this would be that, is looking at what makes up the subject and breaking it into pieces. And here you can do it beautifully well. Let me just pull back here a little bit. So these things, this is all the first morning, right? So then we found this little guy here just as a crown. So you can see his little crown up there, but he was sitting there. So we spread out. So it was myself and my two clients. So we spread out so that he always looks at someone else, giving you different shots, something you can control here. But this happened, right? So if you look at this now, we then decided, let's use depth of field. So this guy's looking to the left. You see the branches in front of him. We shoot through the foliage, which is, from me, teaching-wise, and the skill sets that you can learn here translates very well to when you get leopards in a tree or buffalo behind a thicket. Shooting through foliage to create a bit of texture and depth. Really, really cool. So we spent quite a bit of time. This is also our first morning. Found a little baby one, which is, I mean, super cute little thing. And you see, they're always looking at people all the way. So again, there's that nervous energy, which makes for great photography. And there's eye contact, because he would look there, middle, and then always. So you just keep on shooting. You can predict behavior and then get the cool shots from there. Carrying on from underneath again, then your chameleons as well. We found these. So from here, from this point here, this was the last one, we went back across that little lake area that I showed you. And as we got to the beach where the lodge was, we found this one. And we spent a lot of time, because now we're at camp, right? And you can spend a whole entire day with these things. The photography is simply, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. The detail that you can get, and you can spend time, you can spend all the time, really shallow depth of field, get up close, had to do that. But it really is the details that you can create. That should pop, I'm sure. There we go. So it really is phenomenal. This happened. I don't think he actually went for it. I remember correctly. Literally just walked over it. So that was the afternoon. The evening then, and this was pretty cool, right? So this is let me go here. That's an indri. Sorry, not an indri. This is an ii. Sorry, an ii. There are only about 100 of these in the world, right? In the world, because they're endemic to Madagascar. You only find them there. And what you have here, now what you'll see, this is the only time that there was kind of human interaction. This coconut, right? So what they did, these things were being heavily attacked and kind of hunted out by locals, because people thought that they are evil. which, if you look at them, I mean, and especially their hands, they're not like a pretty lemur. Look at these hands, right? We'll talk about the hands now. But these things were chased and kind of hunted by people. So what they did is they lived on this one little peninsula area, and the locals they dug to conserve them and to protect themselves. They dug a little trench. Now you had this piece of island with ocean around it and a little moat, if you will, a little kind of a little river thing. And it's not more than 5 meters, 6 meters across. But again, these things can't swim. So they know for a fact there's 7 of these that live in this area. So they're nocturnal. So what they do is they put these coconuts out, chopped open, and they leave them in a certain area. We then go and hike. We saw one briefly just in the trees, but then here we go. You use a soft spotlight like you do kind of for African wildlife, and you photograph these. It was absolutely fascinating. And they're actually quite a bit bigger than I would have thought that before we saw this thing. The body itself, I mean, if he's sitting on the table next to me here, it's probably about that big. So I mean, I get where the locals coming from. Could be scary as shit to see that thing in the evening, but phenomenal photography. Now, do yourself a favor. Look at this hand, right? This middle finger is this long, skinny, bony thing. If you go and look, there's an Attenborough documentary. I'm lost for the name now. But what they do is they poke their finger into holes, and then they pull either nectar or then insects and stuff out. But they dig. So what we saw him do is he would poke, I mean, it's a long finger. It's like double almost the length of the rest. Super freaky. And he would poke it into the coconut and then eat off it. Poke it and eat it. But so go and Google eye hands. A-E-Y. This was absolutely phenomenal. I never thought I would see one of these things. But he spent quite a bit of time. Look at that. I mean, you can see why people think no. Just no, right? So just out of interest on a little sideline, for those of you that know Star Wars and you know Yoda, yeah, Yoda, he was modeled after this. So the eye was kind of the inspiration for Yoda. Also in Madagascar, the movie, you get King Louis, the Lima King. I like to move it. His sidekick is also supposed to be one of these. What's his name? Maurice, I think. He's also supposed to be an eye. So this was a pretty cool evening. Next morning, we went back up to Palmarium. So, I mean, yeah, just the last one. This was great evening. Absolutely phenomenal. Back to Palmarium and back to these guys. And again, the cool thing is now, like on a safari, we could look at the evening. What shots did we get? What do we still need? And then you go back and you can try different things, which is pretty awesome. We did see a couple of different species on this day, which was pretty cool. And this here, when they scream, when these things, Indri's call, I actually had a beautiful video on my iPhone, which was stolen when I came back. Different story. Don't want to talk about it. But go and Google Indri sound. I've got it on my Instagram way back. The sound out of them is absolutely insane. So this was up close when this one was shouting. But when we went into Mantadia later the day, we heard them shouting in the forest and it echoes. It's absolutely beautiful. So what happens here is these things jump. So the whole little herd of them, what do you call a collection of lemurs? Open question. But they will jump over and then the next one will come and the next one will come. But it's slow. So you can position yourself and you can catch the jumps as they go. My clients nailed this. I was making sure they're ready first. I got the last one coming across. Little brown lemur. Phenomenal. The close-up photography literally is amazing of both the lemurs and then of the of these chameleons and stuff as well. From a portfolio point of view, guys, if you're into nature photography, this adds a very, very nice new dimension to your work. Then in the evening, I loved when we went to Borneo. The evenings were great. So then you walk through the forest. There's trails through these forests, right? And all the little things that come out at night is phenomenal, right? We found this thing all curled up, all nocturnal, part of the orb-web family. We did every night we went out, early morning golden light. So this here was, this is Lima Island. So that's an area where they put a river around it and the lemurs stay on there because of conserving them. And here you get the sifaka, which is these dancing ones, right? They are absolutely phenomenal. They move ridiculously fast in trees, but when they get on the ground, they do like a sideways shuffle. And they were pretty cool to photograph. tried some panning stuff. So photographically, they're super cool. And then, so how I did this is I stayed back and my 2 clients went on on this canoe, and then you get as close as that, and then they can photograph as they kind of run past. It was pretty cool. Some of the shots that Mary and them got of this guy coming past, really awesome. Really, really awesome. The evening we went another walk. So then you get this, I think it's a Parsons Chameleon. Now this thing, you can't see scale. It's literally from the nose to where the tail starts is about that big as my forearm. Amazingly beautiful animal. And the cool thing here is that you can operate with a guy with a light. I'll show you that now. And you can get some pretty cool stuff. These geckos up close on the trees in the evening. So you're holding still, but the detail on them. What is this bark gecko? But absolutely phenomenal things. So this is the little guy we found on a stick. So we were photographing like this with the light coming from behind. And I said to our guide, can you take the light slowly up and all the way across? So they were photographing from this side, changing the light all the time. And as you look through your camera, you see it changing. Sometimes just rim light like that, all the way through then to the normal shots there. So you can control every aspect, which for me was just amazing, just great. Then on the way out, I think this was one of the smallest lemurs. It's yay big, tiny little thing. It was the only shot we got of him or her. Then outside Madagascar, we found more chameleons. They literally are everywhere. If you just take a moment and you go walk around at your camp, at your lodge, your hotel, these things are absolutely everywhere. And again, the cool thing is you can control absolutely every aspect of the photography. So both from a teaching point of view and photographic, it was absolutely amazing. We had a load of these guys. I mean, it's very like Game of Thrones, dragon vibes happening here, but all round. So here, this guy was walking in the rain. Sorry, Lightroom just noting here. So we try to get some of the streaks in, which actually did happen because they move so slowly. They've got that little jerky action happening when they walk. But again, this was maybe a meter off the ground. So you can lay down, you can sit down. The freedom is absolutely amazing to photograph. And then there's textures and stuff. I did a lot more of this in Borneo with the textures and the patterns. And our guide almost lost his shit when we saw these 2 birds. Apparently, I'm lost for the word now, but we couldn't see them. Literally, they're a half a meter from you. And he says, look, couldn't see them. But just another nice dimension to the photography there as well. Sure, those 2 destinations, Andissa Bay and Palmerium, for lemurs and kind of landscapes in rainforest, absolutely phenomenal. Again, if you want the Baobab Valley down in the south and Tsingy, the granite kind of forest, the rock forest, that's all. We're going to do those in the future again. But for this trip, we just did those. Like I mentioned, if any of you would like the what's it called? The gallery, the gallery of this to go and have a nice look through, just drop me a mail. I'll send you the link and you can have a look on my smug mug there. I am going to quickly look at the Q&A over here. Is your advice to do 2 trips to see the whole island? Marie, what I would probably do is I would split it up into the 2. I would say do the central and eastern side, what I showed you now, in 1 trip, and which is like 7-8 days, and then do the south and the southwest, which is more the landscape-based stuff, as a separate. If you can do 2 weeks, yes, you can. I would then still split it up. Do the 1 part, come back to Tana, take 2 days, just kind of rest, recoup, whatever, and then go down south. But I wouldn't combine everything into 7-8 days. It's very similar. If you go and look around for photographic opportunities there, or safaris, tours, it's the same as in Kenya, where they say, come and do the best of Kenya in 3 days. Ain't going to happen. You cannot do the best of Kenya in 3 days. You cannot do the whole island, Madagascar, in 7 days. It's going to be rush, rush, rush. And because of the infrastructure and the roads, either 2 weeks or 2 kind of 7-8 day trips would cover all of those bases. I have got Anne asks, how would you judge the fitness requirement for the tour? Maybe compared to gorilla tracking in Uganda. This is way easier as a whole. So all of the Lima photography we did, those first ones, is basically flat ground. You're at sea level. You basically walk up a bunch of stairs from the beach, and it's pretty flat because they're all around. Manta Deer, and Andissa Bay Manta Deer if you imagine the easiest gorilla track you've done, it's probably that. So it's not too bad at all, at all. I mean, the ladies I had, they were in good shape, kind of late 60s, but no problem at all. So it's also, there's two or three areas that can be rough, but it's easy to tailor make because small group. So that's pretty cool. The heat is way worse than hiking. Absolutely. The heat can eat you. Brendan asked, what time of year do you go? And do you have trips planned for 21, 22? That we normally run this August, September-ish for a couple of reasons. It's probably unlikely that you're going to travel from around the world just to go to Madagascar. So September, there's a great time, August, September. You don't want to go too much earlier for a weather point of view, but August, September, October is fantastic. It also combines then very well with either a safari or a couple of days in South or East Africa. So I would maybe start, easy way in, depending on what you want to see, either fly Joburg or Nairobi. Then from there, one night just to rest, go straight onto Tana, do your Madagascar stint, go back to either Nairobi or Joburg, and then do 3 or 4 days maybe at a more of a luxury lodge, just to kind of get back into the creature comforts. And yeah, it works very well. Trips for 21, 22. 22 definitely. 21 is scheduled. But right now with COVID, I can't promise you anything. I think I'm only traveling again in May at this stage, which is Svalbard. I'm running 2 Svalbards next year. But the cool thing with Madagascar, it does lend itself to small groups, like private travel. So Brendan, if you have yourself or Esther or 3 or 4 mates, it's very easy to put a small group together and then go. But yes, for 22, maybe for 21, and kind of August, September, October-ish. Makes for a pretty cool time to do those. Right. Guys, quick and easy. That's just a brief little look at Madagascar and the kind of central and eastern areas. Phenomenal photography. I was blown away. It was really, really, really refreshing. It was a nice change up from safari, and just something different. So yeah, really, really worth a look. Guys, as always, if you have any questions, please hit me up on Instagram or TikTok, or drop me a mail, WhatsApp, whatever the case might be. It really is worth a look if you're looking for something different. Okay, so later on tonight, Mike is going to be talking about Sabi Sands, where it started for him. Next week, we are back to 3 webinars a week. There's some cool stuff coming up. If you haven't got the blog post yet, with all of them listed, go to wildeye.com, wild-eye.com, and check out all the cool webinars coming up. Really exciting stuff. Guys, nice to be back. I should be back on social maybe on Monday. Hopefully my new website will be ready by then as well. Brendan, send me your link and we can share that out. Let's hit up and chat soon. And I think that's it for now. It's definitely bucket list. Check it out. Let me know if I can help. Guys, as always, wherever in the world you are, good morning, good evening, and good night. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. See you next time. Bye-bye.